Mr. Master of Ceremonies, delegates of the Anti-Corruption Conference, Mr. Chairman, and members of the Trinidad and Tobago Transparency Institute, Chairman of the International Committee, Integrity Committee, Leader of the Opposition, the Honorable Keith Rowley, distinguished ladies and gentlemen, I have been unable to stand for more than 15 minutes for the past 18 months. But last night I was at the commission and I was able to stand up for an hour. I think that's because God has been the author and finisher of my faith. And I'm praying that he would unlock my jaws and he'd loosen my tongue so that my wisdom does not deteriorate like my strength, and I shall finish this address with the usual aplomb of yesteryear. I therefore thank you for your effusive welcome, and I can assure you that these happy and congenial surroundings of the Hilton Hotel suit my personality to a T. How wonderful it is to go down memory lane to that little 12-year-old schoolboy in the scoreboard at the Oval during the 1955 trials when I was 21 years old and made the team. How wonderful it was to meet this young, decent wicketkeeper, record-breaking wicketkeeper of 1963, whose salary for that tour was £100. How good it was to meet the vice-captain of the West Indies team when I was managing those glory days of West Indies cricket, the now chairman of the prestigious Trinidad and Tobago Transparency Institute. I love Derek Murray. As much as a man can love a man and remain a man. So, ladies and gentlemen, I must tell you that I've had to make an oxymoronic twist from utter trepidation to this state of ebullient ecstasy that I'm now in. There are two contributing factors. When I was at the airport in Barbados yesterday, a young man came up to me and he said, "Listen, Dad, you as all?" I said, "What's left of me, sir?" He said, "You're looking old, man." I said, "Well, I'm 77. Then he looked at me searchingly, and he said, "And you're bald too." But I studied nostology, so I know how some people treat the elderly, so I exited the departure lounge quietly without another word. Then when I got to Piarca Airport, the immigration officer asked my daughter, "Whose diplomatic passport is this?" And she said, "My father." Then he looked at me and said, "I am surprised." So I asked him what was the nature of his surprise. And he just said, "I am surprised." What I said this morning to that immigration officer, your 3 words, "I am surprised," shows that we often judge others and justify ourselves. That's why we're here today, I hope, so that we can discuss all of these issues. And just in case some of you believe, or indeed are of the same opinion of that man in Barbados, then I would have to remind you in a spirit of jocularity that age is only a number. In fact, the demographic profile of the elderly portends that we are all living longer. I suppose it's better diet and health care, I'm sure. So age is only mind over matter. So if you don't mind, it doesn't matter. As for being bald, God made a few perfect heads, and then he put hair on the rest. Ladies and gentlemen, don't clap. I'd like you not to clap at anything I say. I only have 35 minutes. Ladies and gentlemen, when Derek mentioned this speaking engagement, I told him that he should contact a member of the intelligentsia at the UWI in St. Augustine, let them reveal their academic and experiential qualifications, and do the honors. He said, no, man, heads, we want you. So I wonder what pearls of wisdom, yes, what shaft of wit, what golden epigrams must I produce to justify the confidence that Derek has in me? For my major claim is that my life has been forged on the anvil of cricket, politics, and religion. And this prompted Professor Sir Henry Fraser in his citation when I was offered the honorary degree by the University of the West Indies, and he said, "Where's all love for our scars?" He has two MGs, Minister of Government and Minister of Religion. Furthermore, he said that the manly art of cricket prepared me for the cut and thrust of politics, and the cut and thrust of politics threw me in the arms of Jesus. I say hallelujah to that. Ladies and gentlemen, although it is felt in many circles that these three items, cricket, politics, and religion, do not mix, I can safely say that cricket, politics, and religion have been a vinculum of my life. And it is a truism that in my case, the C in cricket was the cardiac, while the P in politics was the pulmonary, and the R in religion was the resuscitation of my life. By the time cricket and politics finished with me, I was walking with a stick. I hope that my experiences and the mentorship of my heroes that influenced my thinking will inspire you this morning. For the common thread in their lives and indeed in their leadership was their walk in integrity. So brothers and sisters, please bear that in mind as I speak to you on the subject, leadership with integrity. I must say that when I looked at your conference program last night, it listed that my address will be material progress at what cost. So whenever I am in trouble, ladies and gentlemen, I always say the phrase, WWJD, what would Jesus do? And therefore, I think that he would fuse it so that everybody would be satisfied. Integrity, the noun, so the dictionary says, involves honesty, truthfulness, uprightness, probity, rectitude, honor, and principle. So it must never be taken lightly. While others surf the net, I surf the 31,163 verses of the Bible. So I checked out God's view on the material progress. I checked that out last night. And in a passage in the Bible caught my eye. It was about a man who was not only very rich, but who God said was the best on earth. Yet, he suffered excruciating pain. And I'd just like to spare 5 minutes to elucidate a few salient points about integrity, and that was found in Job 2. It was a classic case of material progress at the cost of its temporal weaknesses. And it went on that there was a man called Job, and as the angels were ministering, the devil came with them too. He does that. He comes even in cabinet. And while he did that, God said to him, "Have you considered my servant Job? There is no one like him. He is blameless and upright, a man who shuns evil and fears God. But let me tell you this, he still maintains his integrity, though you incited me against him to ruin him without reason." I repeat that. He still maintains his integrity, though you incited me against him You wanted to ruin him without any reason. Is that familiar? Sure it is. It still happens in this rapacious age. Satan replied, well, look, strike his flesh and bones, and he will surely curse you to the face. Most of us heartily reciprocate today. Then God said, all right then, he's in your hands, but spare his life. Please note that Satan can only operate within the limit that God gives him. But it is a wide limit, I can assure you, and therefore we must not underestimate him. Job was inflicted, as you know, with sores and things like that. And then his wife said to him, are you still holding on to your integrity? Why don't you curse God and die? Job was very innocent, but he could not understand why he was suffering like that. Neither could his friends. But even though he held on to his integrity, he still asked God some questions. Ladies and gentlemen, we do the same today. We demand answers when family members are sick or dies, when finances are tight, when things don't go our way or unexpected changes occur. Suffering, therefore, can be, but not always, a penalty for sin. I never thought that I could suffer like Job, but when my first son died 6 years ago at the age of 42, I felt just like him. But I praise God, for it is times like these when our strong Christian faith, integrity, and belief in God becomes bulwark to buttress against the sorrow that abides in us. And like Priam weeping in futile agony at the death of Hector, we can rejoice knowing that there is solace in the Savior's arms, and that when the night is past, our brilliant dawn will appear. In the same way that the oasis of prosperity that most sportsmen enjoy today, it is not only really a reward for being good. You may win the lotto, you may sell drugs, engage in human trafficking, or even a wife beater. But understand that most people from all walks of life feel that when things go wrong or go badly with them, they have to compromise their integrity. That is the problem. They feel that when things go wrong, they have to compromise their integrity. They feel that as long as they do not do anything that can be considered illegal, it does not matter if it is immoral. I am an old cricketing fossil, so you must check out this scenario. A young bowler goes to Queen's Park Oval and he bowls a no ball. But that is not against the law in Trinidad. The policeman cannot lock you up for bowling a no ball. That is true. But let me tell you something. If he goes out there and speaks to a bookmaker or to his captain or senior men, and they use their power to make him go out there and bowl 2 no balls in succession in the 4th over, and then that bookmaker wins thousands of dollars and then hands him part of the loot, I am saying to you that he has compromised his integrity and he will go to jail. It's as simple as that. And that has happened. That is a true case in Pakistan, and they are still in the jail in England. So I say to you, yes, that is material progress. You got money, but at what cost? And now I say to every one of you under the sound of my voice that private practice determines public behavior. So we have to ask ourselves, who are you? Who are you when no one is watching? That's what I ask the question. Who are all of us when no one is watching us? For character includes what we do in the dark. The good news is that all those who endure the testing of their faith will experience God's reward in the end. So it is not what Saul says. That is what the Word of God says. In 2 Peter chapter 1, it says that God has given us his very great and precious promises, so that through them we may participate in the divine nature and escape the corruption in the world caused by evil desires. I repeat that God has given all of us his great and precious promises, so that through them we may participate in the divine nature and escape the corruption in the world caused by evil desires. It is so heartwarming to hear that young lady this morning. Now I know that all is not lost. Now I know that we have a future with young people who think the way she does. And for this reason, we must make every effort to add to our faith. When you remember that faith begins with who God is, and it ends with he always keeps his promises. Therefore, I'm saying to you that for this reason, we must take every effort to add to our faith goodness, and to goodness, knowledge, and to knowledge, self-control. For knowledge is power. The Latin says, scientia est potestas. Knowledge is power, but power can corrupt. An absolute power can corrupt absolutely. That is why Cicero said, control it. There's no doubt about it. You have to control your personal power. By the way, Job humbled himself in reverence before God. He discovered that when nothing else is left, he had God's love, regardless of whether he allows blessings to flow or whether we have suffering. And so, ladies and gentlemen, my 5 minutes on that is up. Ladies and gentlemen, God uses all sorts of people to do good work. So let me cross the Rubicon to tell you about some people God used to influence my thinking in leadership and with doing it with integrity. Let me remind you that success as measured by God is not about material gain. Not at all. It involves courage. It involves faith. And it involves obedience to his word. Courage to tackle the many problems that beset us. For cowardice erodes our self-respect, and it heightens our moral turpitude. That is for sure. Now, ladies and gentlemen, I would just like to tell you about my mother, the first person that really influenced me. She was an unwed, single-parent mother of 2 boys at 18, who was both mom and dad for us, holding down 2 jobs to make sure that we never lacked for anything. There are hundreds of instances of my mother's leadership with integrity. I was a loquacious youngster. Well, not really was, but I still am. And I read voraciously, I still do. But my brother was bright and quiet. He captained the cricket, the football, and the debating teams, while they said that I was an accident looking for somewhere to happen. So I never made any of those teams that my brother captained, although I felt I was better than him at all of them. Yes, I have selected, 4 defining moments where my mom displayed leadership with integrity. When I was 10 years old, I used to walk around with a bat and ball in my hand, and I would tell everyone who would listen that I'll do 2 things. I will have a good education at Combermere School, and I would play for the West Indies. Well, nobody in my gap had played for Combermere, nor anybody in my gap had played for the West Indies, so they told me it couldn't be done. So I won an 8-year scholarship to high school. And I was still back to primary school, had 3 months to go, and I wanted to make a big mark in the area. I wanted to leave primary school with a bang, because I wasn't an accident waiting to happen. I was just ambitious. And therefore, I went and asked them if they would let me have a part in that school play, at the end of the year. And they say, oh, no, we're not having you. My brother had the part of Marlowe. The play was She Stoops to Conquer by Oliver Goldsmith. And my brother had the great part. I said, let me play the old man. They said, no. I said, let me play the young fella at the dare. They said, no. I said, let me play a girl then. They said, no, you're too masculine to play a girl. I'm a big boy. So I was left out. Then my brother, 5 days before that big day, he had a sore throat. He couldn't talk. So I make sure I went there where they were supposed to do the rehearsal. And they asked me, where's your brother? I said, well, he has an inflammatory condition of the larynx. They said, you mean a sore throat? I said, to you, but that's how it be. They said, we'll call it off. I said, you need not do that, sir. He said, why? I said, I know the whole play. I know Marlowe, I know everything. He said, how does it begin? I said, I vow to thee, Mr. Hardcastle, you're very particular. He said, what? You know Marlowe? I said, every word. So I went in and I rehearsed. And when I got to the fact that your beauty at first caught my eye, but who can see that without emotion? And every minute that I converse with you heightens the picture and gives it great expectation. What at first seemed rusted plainness now strikes me as a conscious version. I will make my respectful assiduities atone for the levity of my past conduct. So you got it. When I got home and told my mother, she said, oh no. She said, I want to tell you one thing, Wes. She said, I want you to know that you must try to be who you are and not what the world says you are. You are not Marlowe. And therefore, I was not. My brother went on and did a pretty good job. Not as well as I thought I would do, but it was still in the family. So I went to high school then, a very changed boy. And a funny thing happened to me the first day. My name is Wesley Hall, the full name. And he said, get up. I want you to say your name and then the school. The fellows got up, the school, your name and then school. And I said, Wesley Hall, before I can say St. Giles, the school I went to. He says, boy, have you heard what I said? I said, yeah. I said, Wesley Hall. Now, Wesley Hall is a big, very big primary school in Barbados. He thought I was a stripper, sent me to headmaster. I got 6 lashes from an Englishman. I went home and told my mother, there's no way I'm going back to that school, Mama. No way. She said, Wes, you must be better, not bitter. Bitterness is a wasted emotion. And so I went back to school. I played for school for West Indies when I was 19, only 6 months after I started bowling fast, and therefore I was out of my depth in England. In Caribbean, it would have been all right, I was fast enough, but in England, line of length is the thing, and I didn't look so good. And so they threw me out. They said I'll never bowl if I was 100 years old. What did my mother say to that? She said, no one can make you feel inferior ways without your permission. Put some unction in your function. Get out there and practice and do it. I did that, and within 3 years, I had 100 test wickets, and they said I was #1 fast bowler in the world. At age 51, I was Minister of Tourism and Sports, fusing tourism and sports. Mr. Rowley, that's what you do, fuse tourism and sports. That would be great. Good for Tobago and good for Trinidad. And I was speaking to an ensemble of about 500 people who would come down, most of them returned nationals. I was telling them we didn't have much money, it was in the Depression, and that I wanted them to market Barbados word of mouth, and we will recompense them with holidays, trips to Barbados. A young girl came up to the microphone in question and answer time. She said, you seem to be very good with these middle-class people. I just wonder how it would be with you and poor people. Well, you know, I'm from the proletariat, so when she said that, I didn't know I was on television. I said, lady, that's the quintessence of ignorance. There is no minister in government, there's no one in the House of Assembly who have lived in a government development program like I have. So you cannot tell me that. And therefore, my mother said to me, oh, Wes, I saw you on TV last night. I said, Mom, Minister of Tourism, it happens often. She said, you know, she said, the man I saw on TV is not the little boy I raised. I said, would you like to hear what she said to me? She said, oh, no, I don't want to hear that. She said, I want to tell you one thing. You're a great boy, but you need Jesus in your life. Oh, yeah. I was captivated. Never spoke to her for another week. But 3 months after, I gave my heart to the Lord. Thanks to her. No books will be written about that lady, but she was my first exponent in leading with integrity. My mom. Then I went to play cricket. I knew that I desperately needed a role model, and God was generous because he sent me the 3 W's. The 3 W's mean Worrell, Weeks, and Walcott. All over Barbados, even at the university, the 3 W's mean the World Wide Web. We must not have that. Worrell, Weeks, and Walcott. They were my heroes. But to sit in the same dressing room, Derek knows this, to live in the same hotel, to travel on the same team's coach on a daily basis with them was beyond comprehension. They would not have known it at the time that this neophyte like me was searching for a father figure I always longed for. Oh yes, nor indeed how comfortable they made me feel in their awesome presence. Things about the 3 W's that caught my eye and quickened my mind was their attitude. Yes, they conducted themselves on and off the field with infinite grace. And they said to us, the best cricketer with a bad attitude is no longer the best. Their humility, yes, their vision, the technical competence and mental strength that enabled them to conquer bowlers all over the world. Leadership with integrity. This was unbelievable. For the records show that something extraordinary happened some 80 years ago. What was that something? It was miraculous that these 3 great icons who were born within a mile radius and within 12-month period between 1924 and 25 could become the greatest triumvirate of batsmanship the world has ever seen and displayed leadership qualities festooned with integrity. Sir Frank Worrell, Sir Everton Weeks, and Sir Clive Walcott. After their distinguished career ended, they could have emigrated to any country in the world, but they didn't. Sir Frank Worrell went to Jamaica, became director of sports in Mona, at the University of West Indies at Mona, a senator in the Jamaican government. He then became warden to Irvine Hall, where he touched the lives of hundreds of students who became leaders in our society. Some of them are here in Trinidad. And then he did likewise in Trinidad, and many Trinidadians know of that great man as he acted in the same capacity. In 1960, 12 years too late, he became captain of the West Indies team at the age of 36, and he was respected all over the world as one of the best captains the world has ever seen. Sir Everton Weeks became a government head coach in 1958. Then he became a successful hotelier. He served in many prestigious boards, like Derek. Yes, served on many boards and brought his excellence on the cricket field. Through his excellence on the cricket field, he brought his excellence and helped in a fundamental way to change Barbados for the better forever by proving that true excellence cannot be constrained by social barter. Just because you're born in the proletariat does not mean you cannot reach great heights. Sir Clyde touched, he went on, he coached at the Brooker's Estates in Guyana, discovered Kenai, Solomon, Madre, and many others. And when he returned to Barbados, he worked as a human resource specialist at BS&T, our biggest company, until the Trinidadians bought it out last year. We made president of the West Indies Cricket Board and was the first and only West Indian president of the ICC. This is the untrammeled truth that the 3 W's were an inspiration to the great West Indians that followed them and contributed immensely to our cricketing heritage. That cricket heritage is our touchstone, ladies and gentlemen. It is our point of reference. It is our identity. So here are 3 great golden icons who for 15 years demonstrated what true merit was. And once that merit was finally recognized, the democracy that we now cherish and was finally assured, and our leaders were selected entirely on merit, simply because of the principle of meritocracy that was established by the 3 Ws who epitomized leadership with integrity. The contribution of the 3 Ws is a feature of history that scholars will be able to identify, to distill, and to proclaim. And I posit the view, ladies and gentlemen, that their contribution as leaders with integrity can hardly be equal, far less surpassed. And now we come to leadership with integrity in politics. Ladies and gentlemen, having leadership with integrity in politics is as important as having lungs that aspirate. In 1970, my hero and role model, Father Jerry Pantin, a Catholic priest here in Trinidad, asked Hugh Henderson, one of my bosses at Whitco, if it was possible for me to help with a project among the disenfranchised in Laventille. I agreed, and Hugh said it was okay. But I became so smitten with the fantastic work that was done there that my desire to continue to help those in need became a passion with me. So when the Governor General of Barbados asked me to serve as his appointee in the Senate, I was happy to accept, and I did so for 10 years. In 1986, the Right Excellent Errol Walton Barra, leader of the opposition, recruited me to contest a seat in the House of Assembly, and having won, he appointed me as the Minister of the Crown. My political philosophy was in complete agreement with the view of the late Catholic Bishop Anthony Dixon, who said in a radio broadcast in 1976 that to vote responsibly, one must look for certain qualities in candidates. Yes, sir, certain candidates you must have. That is, they must be willing to fulfill their office without regard of their own office or their material advantages. With integrity and wisdom, they must be willing to take action against any form of injustice and tyranny, against arbitrary domination by any individual or political party. They must be willing to dedicate themselves to the service of all with sincerity and fairness. That is what I have lived with. That is what I have lived by. And that is what I will die by. The Honorable Errol Barra, a national hero of Barbados, was a leader who led with integrity and demanded the same from all his comrades. He was my hero and role model. He knew that political power could corrupt, so he insisted that his teammates control it. He was an eminent lawyer who gave the political arena dignity and definitely integrity. He led with supreme integrity, urging all Barbadians to have a mirror image of themselves, and warned in United Nations Assembly in 1966, when we achieved independence, that while he recognized Barbados was the new kid on the block, 21 by 14, 166 square miles, Barbados will be friends of all, but satellites of none. Ladies and gentlemen, the other political hero and role model was the Honorable Nelson Mandela. Our Governor General, Dame Nita Barra, who knew him very well, gave me a letter of introduction. So Aldrich, the journalist, and I were upgraded from a 15-minute visit to 1 hour. And I was so humbled when he came into the room and he said, "There goes the Great West Hall." I was very humbled. He put us at ease immediately and introduced us to the subject of cricket. He told me that his plans for this government of national unity, as he was not really interested in revenge as some of his comrades thought. His autobiography, The Long Walk to Freedom, chronicles his life experiences, and show how great a leader he has been. Even though he was enslaved for 27 years, 27 long years, he was not better. He was only better, but not bitter, as my mom said. I saw this man as a just, upright, and one of the finest men in world history. Brothers and sisters, I know that the effluvium of time threatens to become me, and also my feet are getting tired. But my benediction is on leading with integrity. It is imperative that we practice what we preach. We must practice that in the church, where God's word is preached, where God's word is taught and exemplified. As I earlier deliberated, my hero, Father Pantin, in Lavertine, requested my help in this project he called Serve All. We went up the hill with no cameras, no hangers-on, just two men with a message: we want to help you. The boys linemen on the corner were not particularly receptive, for they had heard that refrain many times before. But they gradually bought into our plans to help them, and by showing them how to help themselves. They came to Father Pantin and they said, we want a football. He said, well, I'll give you a football if you put up half the money. The fellow said, well, we have no money. And he said, well, how come if you have no money that you're drinking a beer and you're smoking cigarettes? They coughed up the money and we got the football the very next day. Suddenly, ladies and gentlemen, those youngsters stopped liming on the street, stopped smoking dope, and started learning a trade. Girls were started to go to lessons in typing, dressmaking, the craft. Burnt boots coached the football, and the volunteers came in number. I got threatening letters from Geddes and these other guys, and I knew it was time to go home. Mr. Pantin left with integrity, yes, and set us those wonderful centers throughout, training centers throughout Trinidad for thousands of youth. In the last 40 years, Serve All has become a movement of positive change among the young people in Trinidad and Tobago and beyond, all because of Father Pantin's vision and his leadership and having recruited quality personnel to actually work with Serve All where there is no equal. There is no institution in the Caribbean that can rival Serve All. There's no doubt about it. And you are happy, you are lucky in Trinidad to have an institution like that. He is the most unforgettable character I have ever met. And I just wonder how it has escaped them that he has not got the Nobel Prize. Now, on a point of elucidation, I would just like to say that politics, religion, and cricket, just let me settle myself. Politics, religion, and cricket have been the vinculum of my life. I played this great game of cricket at a time when the greatest disadvantage was the denial of the necessary connection between effort and reward. I mentioned that Derek got 100 pounds in 1963. In 1969, at the end of my career, 3 months from London to Perth, so 6 weeks, and 6 weeks going back, that's 3 months, plus another 6 months in Australia and New Zealand for 8 test matches. We, the senior professionals, got the princely sum of $900 US. Fortunately, when we landed in Colombo, they sent a SOS and asked us if we would play. We only had 6 players, so we got 5 from the ship. And when we played the match and won it very quickly, they paid us $5,000 US per man. That was the greatest metamorphosis since the caterpillar became a butterfly. We were famous but poor. Oh yes, that is not a good combination. No, and that is the cardiac. But the unspeakable joy was marrying the maroon and gray of the West Indies, or the challenge, the intensity, the allure, the victory, the indomitable pride of West Indian people that fueled the genius in the icons and encouraged those left talented. Serving the people for 23 years in Parliament was gratifying. But as a Christian, I live what I believe. And I believe that the law of God must be the law of the land. And that any time social protocol takes authority over moral conscience, that is fair leadership. We must be accountable. Oh yes, we must be transparent, as you are telling everyone, and I believe you, because accountability is the essence of democracy. And ladies and gentlemen, if there is no accountability, where there is a chain of command, well then the boys will be boys syndrome will prevail, and that is fair leadership. Because injustice anywhere is a threat to justice everywhere. That is my position, and I resign from Parliament, from the Cabinet. Could I afford it, ladies and gentlemen? No way. No way, I couldn't afford it. But what I couldn't really afford was to compromise my integrity. That was the pulmonary. Ladies and gentlemen, I saw how God uses different people to do his work, where integrity is a top priority. The heroes that I mentioned, all 7 of them, none of them were rich. They were just, they were upright, who could discern right from wrong. And the common thread was their leadership with integrity. Integrity did the same for me. That was my resuscitation. As you go about your important work, not only today, but as long as this institute lasts, I think that you have a great work to do. I congratulate you. And I now leave you 2 quotes from the wisest man in history, Solomon. In Proverbs 11:3, he said, "The integrity of the upright guides them, but the unfaithful is destroyed by their duplicity." In same chapter 11, verse 6, he said, "The righteous of the upright delivers them, but the unfaithful are trapped in their evil desires." I therefore heartily congratulate the work that you do. Derek, oh, I'm so proud of you to be involved in this worthy vocation. And I wish you God's blessing in all of your undertakings. Ladies and gentlemen, a moment only happens once. And I wish that this moment could be frozen in time. Derek and your committee, on behalf of my daughter, Dr. Kerry Hall, and myself, I thank you for your hospitality and your graciousness, which can only be exceeded by my gratitude and our capacity to absorb it. God bless your conference. God bless Trinidad and Tobago. Thank you.